in this year's essay paper, which was most predicted, which is a common theme, constantly reoccurs, has come in the past, will come again in the future, something that I have spoken about in detail and in depth, something that we all know what to talk about, we all know what to write, but not everybody is able to write well about it. The topic is about happiness. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. This is an interesting topic and everybody knows what to write in it. At least the content will immediately come to your head. The content, of course, the first thing people think of is the Buddha. They mention the Buddha, they mention suffering, they mention the Four Noble Truths and various other things that have to do with happiness. Now, what is different about this essay topic is the fact that it is pointing towards a few particular things with regards to that ambit of discussion with regards to happiness, which has to do with mindfulness, with being in the moment, being in the now, and not only seeking happiness through moksha or through nirvana. And so the idea is this, and I'll briefly describe this and explain it to you. According to spiritual traditions such as Buddhism, even Hinduism, and various other practices and techniques and ideologies, with regards to happiness, the central idea is that first you have to go through a process and then you achieve a state of eternal bliss called nirvana or moksha or bodhisattva or whatever. And that comes after a lot of practice, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting. It is said and it is argued that whatever that state is, essentially you enter into a state where you are in the moment all the time. So you're not seeking happiness any longer. It is the end of the pursuit of happiness. It is not as if you reach at a certain point of time and you achieve nirvana and somebody gives you a certificate of having achieved enlightenment. If somebody gives you some sort of an accolade or some sort of a milestone occurs. Nothing like that occurs. What occurs actually is that your mind becomes differently tuned and you are able to be in the moment, appreciate whatever is happening in the moment, and you become the observer. So this is the other interesting element in this essay topic, which some people may miss. The idea behind this essay topic that there is no path to happiness, happiness is the path, the central foundational philosophical idea is you become the observer. And what I mean by that and what all these traditions also mean by that is you observe during meditation by training your mind what is happening moment to moment to moment. Observe your thoughts, observe your emotions, observe what's happening around you. Only observe, do not react. Only observe, do not react. Stay in that point. And then start questioning who the observer is. If you are not your thoughts, if you are not the emotion, if you are not the physical sensation, if you are not the visual stimulus, if you are not the auditory stimulus, then what exactly is the one doing the observing? This is the core, deep, metaphysical, mysterious idea behind this entire spiritual theme. Now, this is just the spiritual side that you can talk about. This would add a lot of depth to your essay, but you can write this essay without going into this discussion of the observer and the deep philosophical, spiritual conversation that I just had. The core themes of this essay topic are obviously one of those things is eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, is the Greek idea of seeking happiness or the search for the good life. And there are, again, various ancient philosophical traditions that have devoted themselves to finding what happiness is, where it can be found. One of those is Stoicism. You can talk about the Stoics over here. You can talk about the middle path over here. And that middle path you can talk about not only in the context of the Buddha, but also in the context of the Stoics also supported that idea a lot. You can talk about hedonism. And this topic over here, that there is no path to happiness, centers around the fact that you cannot find that happiness externally. It can be only found internally. And the way it can be found is you stop chasing it and you realize that it is already there. And you come into the moment. And when you come really into the moment, in that moment, there is no peace, there is no sadness, there is peace, there is no sadness, there is no happiness, there is pure eternal bliss. And if you can stay in the moment, moment to moment to moment, that is happiness. So happiness is a state. It is not an outcome. It is not a means to an end. It is the end. That is the type of stuff you will have to mention here if you want to make it substantive. Otherwise, the problem with the essay topic is it will appear very cliched. When you actually start writing it, it will appear very abstract and very cliched and not It won't have enough content to make your point. So I'll give you some themes and I'll give you some ideas about the content that can be used. One of them is eudaimonia, the Stoics you can use. You can use the idea of hedonism as an actual viable path to happiness. There is an argument, especially in Indian philosophy, the Charvak argument is that why are you wasting time with meditation and why are you foregoing all these pleasures? Take the pleasure, eat the sugar. Do what you want to do. Seek the pleasure. Keep seeking it. That is their idea. But the problem with that is obviously it doesn't last. You have to talk about mindfulness. You can talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. You can talk about a research that was done on Buddhist monks. The longest research ever done on Buddhist monks does suggest that their happiness levels are much higher, even though they are not seeking accolades, they are not seeking promotions, they are not seeking to do the UPSC, they are not seeking any such external reward or any outcome. Their happiness levels were much higher while they were meditating. That is good. Now, there is not much counter argument. This is one topic in which you can't have too much counter argument here. One counter argument, if you wish to add, and I'm just sharing this just for the sake of sharing knowledge and just having that point so that maybe you can use it somewhere else, it's not necessary to use it here, is that if we constantly focus on happiness, our extrinsic motivation, our drive, our achievement orientation may go down. And whatever actually happens in the tangible world, what we call as happiness, many times comes by impacting others. Many times comes by empathy and materializing empathy and actually making something happen for the other person. So that external worldliness, even if it is inherently suffering, inherently it will bring dissatisfaction. Your happiness, no matter what you do, cannot last. But that is one of the most noble ways in which we are able to seek happiness, by actually helping others. And that won't happen if you're constantly in your own moment, if you're constantly in your own mind, if you're constantly observing the observer and all those things, that prescription there fails if you are going to be externally driven. So APJ Abdul Kalam, one of the most venerable figures, especially from our country, was doing this all his life. He was adding happiness to other people and he was at least seemed to be a very happy individual himself. So that is something that you can discuss here. Now, the narrative of this essay. The narrative of this essay is fairly simple. You will have to say, you will have to basically lambast the current materialistic trend of the world. You will have to sort of degrade it. You will have to bring out criticism. You will have to argue that this life that we are living, this 9-to-5 job type life, our pursuit of fame, our obsession with social media, our obsession with materialistic things, is absolutely the wrong way. And from there, you will have to anchor your arguments into the happiness argument and say that it's not to be found externally, like everybody seems to be doing. It's to be found internally. When you do that, then in the body of your essay, in your structure, in the body of your essay, you mention all these things about Buddhism, about eudaimonia, about where happiness can be found, about any research you want. It's all very simple. Structure is not so hard. So that is how you can write this essay, fairly simple. The thing that will distinguish it, I think what will make somebody write a very good one versus an average one and a bad one is how you structure. Because you see, everybody will write the same stuff. This is one essay topic in which more or less everybody will write the same thing. Are you organized? Are you saying things in a logical manner? Did you first lambast or degrade or criticize or critique the current system of seeking happiness, our obsession with this external source of happiness which is never to be found? Then move on to some philosophical things and then move on to some practical suggestions and then move on to a conclusion wherein you can say that we don't have a choice. Most people cannot become monks. Most people cannot become that momentary observer all the time. Most people have to function in the world. The way to do that is mindfulness. All we can do and all we can hope to do with regards to happiness and with regards to enlightenment and with regards to seeking happiness in this is to be grateful. You can include gratitude in this discussion. You can include mindfulness and being appreciative of the little things that we take for granted. We take for granted those little things because we are so distracted by that external motivation. Something like that you can conclude with, and that will be the content of your essay. That is how I would have written it, and that is my opinion, and that's what I wanted to share with you.